Hey, Randy Joe here, and this is 1001 Reviews, a series where I plan on reviewing every single album from the 1001 Albums to Listen to Before You Die book. And today we are looking at Deep Purple's 1970 album, Deep Purple in Rock. According to the book, Deep Purple in Rock was released in 1970 under the Harvest label, produced by Deep Purple themselves with art direction by Edwards Coletta, nationality UK, and a running time of 41 minutes and 46 seconds. Now, me personally, I've never really gotten into much of Deep Purple's discography, and the songs I do know of theirs are their hits, such as Smoke on the Water and Highway Star, both of which I don't really listen to often. So I was really going into this album as fresh and blind as can be, and experiencing these rock legends for the first time, fully front to back. And at first, I really didn't understand the hype at all for this band, as the opener track here, Speed King, feels very bland and unoriginal. It's a really energetic and upbeat track for sure, really capitalizing on the word speed in the track title, but even still I find Ian Gillan's voice to be really uninteresting and almost at sometimes just very amateurish. The instrumentals, however, of this song were what kept me engaged and interested in what this song was saying and doing. And I thought, hey, maybe there is something here to be taken note of. So even though I didn't enjoy and love this first track, I felt like there's definitely a reason for their popularity, given the instrumentals being presented here alone. But thankfully, Speed King really is my least favorite song on the album, because the next 6 songs that follow and make up the rest of the album are pretty strong throughout. The next song, Bloodsucker, really shows off John Lord on the Hammond organ, something that is used quite a lot throughout this entire album. And you also have Richie Blackmore, the guitar player, who is probably the strongest and greatest player in the band. His solos are just so impressive, and they constantly pair with John Lord's Hammond organ, really making this a dynamic duo that is always offering something to the album. And Bloodsucker, even though, again, is not exactly the strongest song on the album, it is a great teaser of what's to come, a much better teaser than that of Speed King, and I think really just kind of hints towards the greatness that is on its way directly after this track with the song Child in Time. This is exactly the kind of song that I want to hear from Deep Purple. It's this long 10-minute epic scaled prog rock track that is just so full of the members' talents in such a useful and effective way. This song also carries a really strong message, as it is an anti-Vietnam War song, something that was very popular at the time of this album's release, and is very similar and reminiscent of King Crimson's work just 1 year prior with In the Court of the Crimson King. As much of that album is dealing with the Vietnam War as well and the anti-war aspects. This is also a song where Ian Gillan's voice actually works quite effectively, in my opinion, and isn't as annoying and unbearable like it is on some of the other songs here, because it is a bit more unique, and his piercing and screaming wails that he does throughout this song are definitely stronger and more important, because they really bring the message of the song home, sort of taking on this madness of war effect that this soldier is sort of going through. And again, John Lord's Hammond organ as well as Richie Blackmore's guitar solos constantly play parallel to one another in this explosive fashion, really kind of coming alongside Ian Gillan's piercing vocals. And it is a very explosive build-up each time. It happens twice throughout the song before it cuts off away and goes much more stripped back and laid back, sort of like King Crimson's work, as I've mentioned. And that's not to say that I think Deep Purple is ripping them off, but rather they are both doing a similar idea at the same time and just happen to coincide with one another, which isn't a complaint at all, because again, more of that style is something that I myself thoroughly enjoy. And then we have the next song, Flight of the Rat, which is another song really showcasing each member's talent on the band, especially Richie Blackmore once more. Again, I can't stress enough, I do think he is the greatest member of the band, in a band that already, in my opinion, has a lot of great members, such as Ian Pace and John Lord. Like I said, Ian Gillan's voice isn't something for me, and I think on this track, again, showcases exactly what I don't like about him, which is that he just kind of comes across as rather generic. He really does feel like the weakest part of the band, but again, maybe that's just because it's not a style that's for me. I do want to say that even though the singing isn't personally for me, this was a style that took off greatly in the 70s and was done by Ian Gillan here before a lot of other people were doing it long after. So his influence is definitely there. Again, I just don't personally enjoy it or think it's that special. But enough ripping on Ian Gillan. I want to go back to Richie Blackmore, who at 4 minutes and 50 seconds has this amazing zany guitar solo that is just really out of this world and funky. The ending of this song alone really shows off Richie's guitar playing and Ian Pace's drumming, as they really coincide one another greatly. The next two tracks, Into the Fire and Living Wreck, really just offer up more of the same of what you've heard so far. Again, more Richie solos. Again, more Ian Pace's great drumming. John Lord on the Hammond. Once more, fantastic. The songs are just continuously fantastic and great, and maintaining the same high-level energy that's been in this album so far. There's so much that I think this album does right instrumentally, and I really do think they managed to withhold this energy quite greatly throughout. But I do want to say that at this point, you think you've pretty much heard it all, and you are getting a bit tired by the end, as it is just very much more of the same that is up until the last track, Hard Lovin' Man. When I say you think you've heard everything up until this point, again, I want to say you think you've heard everything of Richie Blackmore up until this point, because his guitar playing on Hard Lovin' Man is perhaps some of his most wild. It is really just out there and zany with what he is trying to go for. Richie goes on to use an excessive use of arpeggios, pick slides, and whammies to really create this strong, out-of-this-world, almost experimental effect that is unlike any other solo that came out of the 1970s. At least as far as hard rock goes, because even though this is a hard rock song, it gets a bit more out there instrumentally. And John Lord's Hammond organ is really overworked by him at this point, because in this song he is just pushing it to its absolute limits. This final song is really just a great way to close out the album and show off the band members' talents, and really pushing it to the extremes on this song more than ever, maybe with the exception of Child in Time, as they do coincide and complement one another the best on that song. But this song, Hard Lovin' Man, is a really fun and experimental route for them, even though it isn't super experimental. As far as this hard rock style goes, it is a bit more out there. So overall, even though I started off this album feeling it was quite weak and lacking, and I didn't really understand the appeal of Deep Purple in general, I quickly realized this is because I am a 21-year-old experiencing Deep Purple for the first time in the year 2020. When at this point I have already heard most of the bands that came after this and were greater influenced by Deep Purple in general. So knowing this, and knowing that this was at the root of hard rock, metal, and even prog rock to an extent, really made me appreciate it a lot more and take a bigger and wider look at this thing overall. I wouldn't even argue with someone if they told me that they felt that this album was perfect, because even though I don't think it is perfect, I think that there is definitely a case to be made, as at the time it could definitely be held in that regard. This is still a very important and monumental album in hard rock in general. So overall, it is a strong and amazing effort made by Deep Purple that is worth notice. So clocking this in, the soft rating of this album is a 8 out of 10, but I will harden it up to a 9 out of 10, adjusted to a 9 out of 10. And of course, I would say that this album gets an E for essential, definitely an E for essential, because it is definitely worth a listen if you were wanting to get into classic hard rock, because this is very much the essence of that. Anyways, that pretty much does it for this video. Let's go ahead and see what the next album you're going to listen to in the 1001 Albums to Listen to Before You Die book is. Alright, random number generator, 1 to 1001, generate. 896 is the number, so that is HMS Fable by Shaq. I believe that's correct. HMS Fable by Shaq. I am unfamiliar with that one, but go ahead and listen to it. Our review for that will be out in exactly 1 week from now, hopefully, assuming nothing gets in the way. And this Friday, we have the review for Michael Jackson's 1987 album, Bad, so go ahead and give that one a listen as well. Go ahead and like this video if you like this video, and subscribe if you want to join me in listening to every album from the 1001 Albums to Listen to Before You Die book. Thank you for watching. My name is Randy Joe, signing off.